Hello and welcome to WOW's Operation Replays. Today I have a ship that, well, I've been avoiding for a long time. That I never thought about picking up until now. Indomitable. Now, Indomitable, as you know, I did create my CV guide for Raptor Rescue, and I used the guide that I did, and I used Implacable as a base to basically make Indomitable. I still stand by that. I still stand by my decision to come to you how I rated Indomitable. After playing it, I still stand by my decision. Because I feel like I've seen enough of the footage on how to use the ship to understand how to best use the ship. And after playing it for quite a few ops, I do stand by my decision. Now, Incomparable, or Indomitable, is the Tier 8 premium British aircraft carrier. Now, it will soon be it used to be only British aircraft carrier, but we'll be getting Colossus eventually. So it'll have a brother coming in. But this used to be the only Tier 8 premium carrier you could get for the British. Now, for economics, without military contributor flag, 5% to credits, 55 to ship XP, 65 to commander XP, and 100 with the clan. Okay? Armor-wise, she has 25mm and 21mm armor around most of her body. But then let's pull away, some of this armor. And we'll show you. That's her citadel. That's the Incomparables, citadel, which is clear above the waterline. So, very easily citadelable by practically anything. Now, but her deck is actually, like, armor-wise, she is what her deck used to be in real life. 25 on both ends, but then we go to a 76mm, or 38mm, and then a 76mm deck armor. So, she's very well armored on her deck, which means she can break a lot of shells, which plays into account with the British philosophy of having armored flight deck carriers, whereas the Americans had mostly wood decks. Like in the Pacific, she took a kamikaze right to her deck, and they just caused like a dent in the steel. Literally didn't do anything. They just said they were like, "Man, you're bruised," and they just sweeped it right off the deck. It did nothing to the deck armor. So they captured that in the model, which I really love. Armor-wise and survivability-wise, torpedo reduction not great, 28%. I mean, it's average. But again, carrier or torpedo reduction, you're still going to take decent damage from torps. 51,400 from her HP pool. Artillery-wise, she only gets these 113 mounts. So she gets 4 of them four on each side, so 8 altogether. Airstrike automatic, 7km range, max damage, 2150. AA is not terrible at 16 Orlik machine guns, 21 dual mount Orlikens, 4 quad mount or double mount, like Bofors guns. And then basically the tried and true, mostly pom-pom guns almost. So, AA not great. Maneuverability, 31 knots, so she's still a pretty fast carrier. 970 turning circle, average. Rudder shift, average. So, not much in that department. Concealment, without a full concealment build. If you put a full concealment build and with the hidden menace perk and then a concealment mod, you could get it down real stealthy. British carriers have ridiculous stealth. But I don't know, but this carrier needs a very specific build. And we'll get into that. Now, for aircraft, this is her bread and butter. Now, these are fairly tanky. These are de Havilland Mosquitoes. So, aircraft. So basically, attack aircraft are 2100 HP, base speed of 193 with a 234 max speed. Attacking flight 2 per squadron, 6 aircraft in a squadron, so it's 3 strikes. Aircraft preparation, though, and there's 14 on deck. Aircraft preparation is where it gets brutal. 104 seconds for 1. And they get 8 rockets on a payload with 2100 max damage. Armor pin 28, so again, average. You want to hit the superstructure in the upper top of the deck at 9% of giant fire, not terrible. But then she gets her bombers. These are your main damage dealers, are her bombers. Now the bombers, Sea Hornets, de Havillands, 2074 HP, 196 on base speed, 134 with engine boost. 4 planes in a squadron, so attacking squad of 2. And there's only 10 on deck. Air prep 106 for just 1. 10 kilometer range. There's 6 bombs in a payload, 4700 damage apiece, 32 millimeter pin, and 27% on fire. Now, this is where it gets very hard. Now, we're going to really give this carrier a really good looking over. I know usually some mine aren't kind of, over, but Indomitable is a very particular ship. She has an ability that has been removed from all the carriers in the game except for her. What they call it, it's called Slingshot method. Basically, you approach a ship with their bombers at around 7 to 6 kilometers. You drop your first strike. And then you just wait for it to go green. You drop it. And then you instantly zoom through like the flak and everything because of the damage and vulnerability. And then you basically click the button again once it's off cooldown, and you basically line up your drop and strike immediately afterwards. It's very quick, very in sync with each other right after the other. Done correctly, you can get off a strike through massive amounts of AA, and you won't lose a plane at all. Every carrier had this ability until Wargaming, removed it. So tier 10 aircraft with this ability, it was removed for this reason. Now, Indomitable still needs this ability because she only gets 2 attacking flights, and she really does need it. Now, let's go to equipment. Now, of course, since you want to have Air Groups 1 for the return speed, Engine Modification 1 for this engine boost duration, you only get main battery and attack aircraft for your fighters. So, of course, you're going to take the fighters for the 2-second long attack run, of course. And then, of course, your bread and butter are your bombers. There's no reason for you to take any of the others except for the bomber HP. That's just a given. And then, yes, I did say that British carriers are pretty stealthy, but, again, you want Flight Control 1 because you get -5 to aircraft prep and +2 of each aircraft on deck, which for Indomitable you need. Now, again, she only gets rockets and bombers. Again, they get basically 2 engine boosts and 4 fighter charges. So, not much. Standard, auto consumables, not much. Now, we get into the build part. This is where it gets very, where Indomitable gets very, so I have a 10-point captain, and it's capped, or Mr. Paper Commander. This has to be, you can't just mix and match any commander with Indomitable. This has to be a purely dedicated commander. Now, of course, I go Air Supremacy for -5 preparation, Squadron Speed for improved engines for +, per 2.5% increase, Site Stabilization for faster arming for my bombers, Bomber Flight Control for my bomber cruising speed, because I want to get these bombers going fast. And then, since I still have like 11 points left, you definitely want to take, these 3 skills. So, Pryotechnician, which gives you about a 5 to your fire chance. So that jumps that up to 32 for your bombs, 10% to your fires or rockets. So that's a big increase since you're just a fire spamming cruiser, what we used to call the Sky Conqueror. Now, of course, you want aircraft reduction and then survivability, which gives you about 200%, 200 to each of your planes. So it gives it a little bit more survivability. That's 9 points right there. Okay? So then you'd want to go improved engines and then last gasp. Because then you can basically have that increased engine boost to get to and from your target. And then when you do your slingshot, you have that last so let's say you accidentally drop it a little bit short. Your last gasp is so you can speed through it real quickly. This carrier maximizes speed and survivability. Now, I mean, you could take, Pyrotechnician off and engine boost and put this on there. Enhanced aircraft armor. Now, you could do it, but if you're comfortable using the slingshot method, there's no reason to take the enhanced armor. And I'm not going to take the enhanced armor because I'm used to the slingshot method now. So there's no point for me to have that because I'm going to use using the slingshot to bypass half the AA. So there's no point to take this fourth skill. It's better to put it into some fire and, engine boost, honestly. But that's how you would want to run Indomitable. But let's get into the replay. Now, I'm not top of the team on this replay, but this shows you how to play Indomitable. And really, now this thing has trouble hitting DDs. Don't expect to hit DDs unless you're using your rocket planes. Bombers, good luck. Unless you're really lucky, they just don't drop fast enough to hit the DDs. And they don't do that good on cruisers, as you'll see. They still do good damage, but, saturation and everything takes in. But these are battleship killers. So if they can kill a battleship, then they can kill a carrier on Raptor Rescue. Which is why I still stand by that. Because the Shikaku doesn't have a flight deck capable of killing, this kind of carrier. So it's still possible to kill a carrier with these bombs. So I still stand by my decision. But let's get into that replay, folks, and we'll show you how Indomitable does it. Hello, and welcome to the Indomitable replay review. Now, Indomitable. This ship was considered the Sky Conqueror in testing. But she still is a pretty good Sky Conqueror, but she's only good against certain targets. And it's unfortunate. Like, she's still a good ship. She's just not that good against cruisers, but she does great against battleships. So, really good against one set of... Useless against destroyers, let's be honest. Average on cruisers, and not that good on... Great on battleships, decent on cruisers, and average to subpar on DDs. I've really just been unsure if I wanted to pick this ship up. But I decided, let's give it a shot. After playing this one several times, and this was my first match of it. Very first match. I was, still very impressed. It's not as hard as I thought it would be to use. It's a very easy CV to use. Since it's a one-trick pony, you only have to worry about playing, conserving, and using and learning the slingshot method. Now, slingshot method is a mechanic that has been removed from every CV in the game except for the Indomitable. Indomitable still has the slingshot ability because it still needs the slingshot ability. Because that's how you work with these bombers. You don't send in whole flights. You use slingshot method to really rack up the damage and really play it. Now I'm using my rockets because I can afford to expend these guys. A fire and 40, 200. It's not bad. Well, for proper slingshot method, you want to drop it around 6 to about 7 kilometers away from the target. Your goal is to basically have that lined up right as you drop, so you can get maximum amount of bomb hits and be out of that AA real quick. Now that one's a bad one because it was my first drop. I honestly wasn't understanding the whole slingshot method, but by the end of it, I honestly did understand it very well, and you'll see it at the very end how the slingshot method really works. So if you really want to just fast forward to the convoy escorts and then the battleships, go right ahead, because it's honestly, that's really how you judge this ship, is just on those two things.
Enemy ships detected in the northwest.
Now I did try to make a strike on this Mutsu, but I messed up. I decided to call my planes back because I wasn't going to risk it. I tried going in again, but I did lose more planes than I needed. He does go down, and I thought, okay, maybe I can drop it in the smoke, but I totally missed it, like really missed it. And these planes do have a tight turn circle. That's another thing, is that they don't turn like normal planes do. You basically, that's why the slingshot is so critical for these planes. And I do pick it up though. And I had the first wave with about 26,000 damage. I mean, for an Indomitable, it's still pretty good. I wish there were more battleships though. If there were more battleships, I could have done a lot more. Now, I'm not going to go for those cruisers, because that's just going to destroy my planes. That's going to destroy all my plane reserves. And Indomitable doesn't have great plane reserves. I mean, right there, you see, I only had 14 rocket planes and only 10 bombers. So, you don't have the strike capability to attack those cruisers. And I never recommend any carrier attacking those, unless you're like a Russian or a Kaga. Now, I do pop my fighter plane, so it draws up all their fighters from the side, and basically allows me to do, whatever. And this doesn't have no AA, so thankfully it's easy damage for me. But you'll see just how hard it is. These bombs are great on battleships, but the way they drop makes it hard to hit cruisers. And then saturation damage kicks in. And I was still learning these bombs, okay? It's the first match, so I have to learn as I go. So after like the first few drops, I'm like, okay, now I'm kind of getting the hang of these bombs. And when this ship was in testing, the bombs were hit like a truck. They were accurate, and they were, honestly, they would fall like real quick. 7 bombs, 9,000 damage. Okay. But, then saturation kicks in and everything. That damage is going to go down. So you'd literally have to stack every of these cruisers to just get decent damage. And yeah, it makes sense to damage stack all of them, but that takes time. But I would love to try it again. If I was going to use any carrier on this map, Kaga, and honestly, I would pick Indomitable. I would pick Indomitable to play on this map. Because this ship plays well with it. Now, again, fires don't do much on cruisers, 30 seconds, so it's better just to focus one down, because by the time you focus all the rest of them down, it's not gonna. Now you see it was 9,000, then it just keeps evening out at about 4,000. That's all the saturation and everything kicking in. So your damage does go down. Meaning this thing works great on battleships. I pop my fighter and I just zoom right through this, because these planes are pretty still fast. 4 bombs and a fire. Now, you know, Indomitable has decent armor, so I can afford to just sit out here like this. I can afford it. I didn't aim that bomb up good enough. But I still get a fire, or incapacitation, below it is ready. Sherberg picks up that, and I'm up to 8 fires. So, it's not as bad as it was, like, in testing with, like, 20 fires. But, if you can average, like, 15 fires plus, that's a good Indomitable game. Again, you know, the bombs just are just so much more for battleships. And you see, we really needed, it was a close game. But you see, we lost those 2 tier 6s, which hurt. And Sherberg's kind of getting focused. The Massey really should have been up farther, really pushing in. And the Sherberg could have been helping. Now, I'll be honest, Indomitable, the maps that I would recommend Indomitable works best on would be Aegis, Hermes, Raptor Rescue, and Killer Whale. Those would be the ones that I would say it works best on. Now, this is where I start really getting a slingshot. And watch the damage counter. We're at 74,000. But again, all my planes basically come out. 12,000. 8 bomb hits. And a fire. But all my planes basically get out of there. And this is why I would pick this ship, because it's the only carrier that I know of that can make this kind of strikes on this Amagi and still keep coming out. Now, I really should have been up higher to my normal position, but that's on my bad. If we had, you know, the Sherberg and our 6s back, I think it could have been an easy 5 stars. But you see right there, slingshot, and then basically I'm right there ready, and I'm out. Drops on, boom. Another fire. 4,000. But since it's a battleship, it's going to burn for the full amount. Now, if Arakatsuki had been a little bit more aggressive, he could have probably sunk both ships. Around, you want to start at about 5, do about 6 kilometers out, and then you basically park around 6 is probably where I would recommend. Yeah. Another 4 bomb hits, you know, and since I'm not dropping bow on, I'm gonna get less damage. So if you're dropping, you know, bow on to a battleship, you're gonna do really good. So let's say you can get an Indomitable up on those Nagatos. That actually would be really cool to see. But since you have the slingshot method, you can get through all this AA. Not many carriers can do this through all this AA. Right, see, I'm literally, the first wave's already out, and the second wave is out. 7,000 damage, but 2 fires. All my planes basically escaped the flak. You can't do that with mini carriers. This is the only carrier that has slingshot, and that's why they removed it. It's such a powerful mechanic. Too powerful. But you see, once you get it down, slingshot is just easy to use. Again, about 6,000. And I do pick up the Amagi on fires. And that's the hard thing, is that this island where I'm at offers great protection and allows you to help kill the Amagi and protect the Convoy, but it doesn't help you with the battleships, especially on this side. That's why you're so dependent on your team for taking out these ones. But you can take out the Amagi. Six bombs, 8,000 damage, and a fire. No, I was going for Yushi. I should have went for a Sensei, honestly. Indomitable needs time. Since it's a DOT carrier, damage over time, it needs time to rack up damage. $3,000 damage and 2 fires. It burns. Now, we're not going to get, but we average 15 fires. That's not bad. But a still pretty good example of how good Indomitable still is against certain ships.